Hey, welcome. So today we're going to dive into a totally new way of looking at our dreams. And I'm not talking about hidden symbols or trying to decode some secret message. No, this is about your brain's nightly mission, literally performing maintenance on your daily stress.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, right? A dream so bizarre, so completely disconnected from your day that you wake up just baffled. You're flying on a giant goldfish or your teeth are falling out. Well, it turns out there might be a very, very logical reason for all that illogical stuff. Exactly. The big idea we're digging into today is that these wild, strange dreams, they're not just random noise. They are your brain's tool for actively resolving the stress left over from your day. So, how in the world does this actually work? Well, all day long, our brains are collecting what some scientists are now calling neural strain packages, which is, a fancy way of saying the emotional leftovers from all our stressful moments.
Think about it. When you can't deal with that frustration at work or that really awkward social moment, that strain, it doesn't just vanish. It gets tagged for overnight processing. And your dream? It becomes the workshop where your brain tries to reconfigure and rebalance all that unresolved energy. And this is where a fascinating new theory comes in. It's called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. And it's a completely different way of thinking about the purpose of our dreams.
And here is the absolute key difference. The old view, the Freudian idea, saw dreams as these symbolic messages we had to decode, like a puzzle. But the BKM model? It sees them as a process. It suggests our dreams aren't just telling a story, they are actively doing something to rebalance our brains. It's a job.
And it turns out the brain has a whole toolkit for this job. We're going to look at 4 real-life case studies, and each one is going to show us a different tool the brain pulls out to tackle a very specific kind of stress. It's pretty cool. All right, let's start with case 1. So we've got a project manager who is just completely powerless at his job. His professional agency is totally blocked, and he is just seething with frustration. To cope, he has a few beers and ends up just watching a couple in a park, kind of mixing that stress with a bit of arousal. So that night, he has this incredibly abstract, almost erotic dream. Bodies are just flowing and merging, transforming into fish and birds and moons. Now, on the surface, that has absolutely nothing to do with a stressful business meeting, right? But watch this. This function is called sublimation. What his brain did was take all that blocked, aggressive energy from work and rechannel it into this creative, pleasurable imagery. It basically discharged the strain into a much safer and, frankly, more beautiful pathway. Okay, next up, a totally different kind of stress. Here we have a man who is caught between 2 powerful emotional poles, what the BKM model calls dual attractors. He loves his traditional grandparents and wants to be with them, but he also made a promise to his wife, who's waiting, not so patiently, in the car. He's literally stuck between 2 worlds. His dream that night is just deeply poignant. He sees a baby donkey and its hesitant mother, which kind of symbolizes grandparents and his wife. And in the dream, he brings them all together, pressing their heads into one, and they all just weep together. This is a perfect example of the alignment function. Now, the dream couldn't solve the real-world problem, right? But what it did was create a symbolic wish fulfillment. It staged this beautiful scene of reconciliation, temporarily aligning those 2 competing emotional forces just to release that awful tension. Case 3 involves a kind of strain we've all felt, pure sensory overload. A young boy goes to a public sauna for the first time and is just overwhelmed by the sight of so many naked adults. His brain literally has no existing framework, no folder to put this chaotic rush of new information into. So what does his brain do? It simplifies. Big time. The dream takes that chaotic scene of dozens of bodies and distills it down into a simple 2-person game. He's on a seesaw with just one of the women from the sauna. This is oscillatory equalization. I mean, the seesaw is the perfect metaphor for what the brain is doing, isn't it? It's taking sensory chaos and imposing this simple, rhythmic back and forth pattern on it. It's literally creating balance out of overload. And our final case deals with that really intense strain of social anxiety. We've got a teenage boy who's super self-conscious about his shorter leg. He walks past a group of girls, hears them laugh, and immediately, incorrectly, assumes they're laughing at him. He feels completely paralyzed and powerless. So in his dream, he starts at a bus stop,
a great symbol for his immobility, watching these buses just pass him by. But then there's this dramatic shift. All of a sudden, he's in a car, speeding powerfully past those very same buses.
This is a classic example of role reversal compensation. The dream takes his waking feeling of powerlessness and exclusion and just flips it completely on its head. It restores his sense of agency by overcorrecting, transforming him from this passive victim into an aggressive, powerful driver. So, there you have it, 4 very different kinds of stress for completely different and very strange dreams. So let's pull it all together and see the pattern that emerges. This right here is the BKM toolkit in action. It shows us that our dreams aren't just random static. They're deploying specific tools for specific jobs. You've got blocked frustration, the brain uses sublimation. An emotional conflict, it's going to try alignment. Sensory chaos gets hit with oscillation, and feeling powerless gets a dose of compensation. So the real takeaway here is this. We need to maybe reframe how we see our dreams. They're not just these passive movies playing in our heads. They are an active, vital process of nightly maintenance. Your brain is working hard every single night to keep you balanced. And this, of course, brings the whole thing right back to you, doesn't it? Understanding this framework gives us a brand new lens to view our own inner worlds. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. The next time you wake up from some totally bizarre dream, instead of just dismissing it as nonsense, ask yourself, what problem was my brain trying to solve last night? What daily strain was it working so hard to rebalance? The answer might just tell you more about your waking life than you ever imagined. Thanks for diving in with me.